Good afternoon, AmeriCorps members. Today's training is focused on data collection and member engagement surveys that are done with your students. So student engagement surveys. So I'm going to jump right in and share my screen and go over this training. This will be posted on Brightspace as well as YouTube for you to re-watch. And on this training, we've also added your questions and answers as well. For October, we had a new member, Aliyah Yakteen. Welcome. We are so glad to have you part of the team. If anyone sees her in class, has her in class, has her in a club or a um, program, maybe your AmeriCorps site, please welcome her in. Now, we have some updates in terms of future events. Please note, as part of AmeriCorps, we are here to inform you that you have a right for voting. So whether it's in your local town or if you reside in Springfield and are able to vote, please do so. That for us in Springfield, we have the November 7th election. And in terms of the November monthly training, that will be canceled. In replace of that is a video for service projects that we posted last year. We'll reshare that again this year. Now, December 4th, that will be our next monthly training. December 4th training is again 2 to 3:30, and we have the option of a Zoom call for those that are in our Worcester Central Mass sites. And the focus for that is we're going to elaborate further on service projects and the holiday blues for our members like yourself to be aware of if you're interacting with your cohort of students and you're noticing a change of behavior, what to look out for during these times. And last but not least, save the date, November 3rd. We are celebrating AmeriCorps Day in Boston. And so we do require that you at least RSVP or let us know that you will not be attending. How? Through this Google form. So this form has been shared with each member. Even if you're not able to go, we've asked some fun questions that helps us get to know you more. Even if you can't go, please answer the rest of the questions on that survey and you'll be on your way. For those that are attending, the bus does leave for 8:30. The bus will be there for 8. For those that normally are not at our school, so if you reside in a different school or community and you're wondering about parking, we did attach the parking lot, the school map, and the lot you're able to park in, which is lot 10. You won't be ticketed, you're able to park there. And if you have any questions, my cell phone the day of is that. Now for AmeriCorps Day, our group has been tasked with doing a great cheer. And in our in-person training, we did have Anthony and Freddie represent our program, but as a collective group, we are going to repeat after them. Once they're done introducing themselves, we're going to repeat, I am the change, I am one of a kind, I am an AmeriCorps member, and I am proud. We're going to make sure we chant that with pride. So, and remember, 1, 2, 3, impact. And that is what you're doing. And so that's just the opportunity our group is able to have in the room to represent our program. Every group will have a chant, so please don't think this is silly. This is something fun that we're going to share with everyone in that AmeriCorps Day. Now, we want to let you know that outside of serving at your schools, you're able to serve at nonprofit organizations with the caveat that it is not a fundraiser for that organization, but you're able to serve. Volunteering or serving at a nonprofit organization counts for service as long as the following criteria is met. Volunteering for a program is not a fundraiser. So an example of that is a 5K. An example of that, even if you're passing out water, cannot participate. You cannot count that time for your service because you are still directly benefiting them and their fundraising that they're fundraising efforts. Another one that members sometimes get confused on is they're participating in a silent auction or raffle. That's a fundraiser. Same thing as a golf tournament. That's a fundraiser. So while you're more than welcome to participate in those, just can't count that as hours. Also, someone from the organization, so for instance, if it's Springfield Museums, someone from that organization sends us an email with your attendance, how long you were there and on what day. So that way we can match it to what you put on your timesheet. That's all we ask for. It has to be someone from that organization that can attest to your attendance. We have a partnership with Springfield Museums, and these are the opportunities that they're offered. The 28th has just passed, but November 24th. And I know we've already sent this via email to everyone because one of the items you need to have completed is a query form. And that query form is for the museum and their record. They have to have it completed. So if you think you can walk in the day of on the 24th of November, you won't be able to. So please reach out to the AmeriCorps email so we can provide you that query form. And there will be more opportunities with this organization in the spring. And just some friendly reminders that we're just seeing as we go through, both Anna and I, is to ensure that you serve 6 hours or more. So if you have exactly 6 hours of service, we have to see a 30-minute break. That break or lunch is your dedicated time away from your site. This isn't you eating lunch with the kids as a lunch bunch, breakfast bunch. No, that is still service, but it is time away from you doing any of your roles or responsibilities. And this means you could leave your site. And again, while the labor, fair labor of Massachusetts states over 6 hours for MSA, they've clarified the language that for AmeriCorps members who are serving, you're not employed. As soon as the 6 hour mark is hit, there should be a 30-minute break. Now, for instance, if that 30-minute break is broken up into 15-minute breaks, one 30-minute break in the beginning or at the end of the day, that's the agreement between you and your supervisor. You're okay with it. We're fine with that. We are not here to micromanage you at your site. We are only here to ensure that your quality of service is being provided. And having a break will ensure you provide the students with quality. Now, emailing us your syllabus to receive coursework training. So coursework is when you are taking an actual class. For those that are college students, grad, undergrad, you are able to claim either 2 hours and 30 minutes or 2.5 hours a week. For those that are 450-hour members, you claim an hour and 15 minutes, so an hour and a quarter hours a week. But we need to see the syllabus, and we are very much aware that when classes end second week of December, we'll double check your syllabuses. We anticipate that you do not count those coursework if you have no classes. Unless you do have a winter class, send that over, we'll allow you to claim time. And again, once classes start in the spring, if you have those syllabus early, send it over even before the class starts, so we at least have that file and you're all set. And for those that are not Springfield College students, you should have all received instructions on how to receive your college email and receive access to Brightspace. If you have not, the email that they reached out to you, they're able to troubleshoot any issues you're going through. This would be done through the IT department on campus. And again, if the IT department, the contact is not following up, let us know. We can definitely help you out in terms of making sure that person assists you with getting your email and Brightspace. Now, we won't have an icebreaker for the recording. Now let's get into why we're all here. So, data collection and management. Why do we bother with data collection and management? Well, besides the fact that this is in your contract, in your handbook, and we provided trainings on it, which we're going to reemphasize today. This all will tie back into why we have been funded. Why are you able to receive a living allowance? Is because we have proven that this program provides change. And the one way you provide change is dedicating time to a student. Now, how do we prove you've dedicated time? These are the metrics, these are the tools that we are able to see the results of your hard work, of your hard service. So, this is pulled straight out of your handbook. A question that has came up, and that's why we added it here, was what should my role and responsibility be at my site? So from your handbook, your biggest role is to establish and maintain a student mentoring group. Now, this isn't the only, this is created in conjunction, in hand with your site supervisor. So with everything that we state, if it feels like it's overwhelming to you, as if this is all on your own shoulders, this should not. This should be in conjunction with your site supervisor. Please also reference page 5 and 10 of your handbook. So this 15 to 20 students, this can be all done in 3 groups of 5, 1 group of 10, 5 individual students, all 15 individual students. How you meet your students can be done as groups or as one-on-ones. That's not dictated by me. That's a decision that your site supervisor and you come up with based off of how much time you have and what students, who are the students in need, and how often are you able to see them? Because again, they're in school for classwork. So your role is to provide mentoring and support services for at least 30 minutes per student. Now, we said this individually or as part of a group, or both. You might be checking in with students 10 minutes, Mondays when you serve for the start of the week, and then you also see them again on Wednesday as a small group. Those 30 minutes of engaging that student, that's the engagement we expect. 30 minutes of engaging a student. And it's fine if you engage that student for 30 minutes as a group. Each student, even though they're in a group, is not dedicating 5 minutes to each student, totaling 30. You dedicate 30 minutes for all the students. And we get that question a lot. So in the 30 minutes that you dedicate to the student, you need to maintain consistent check-ins. So maintaining that small group. That small group that you have during lunch, for instance, shouldn't only happen once a month. That should be your consistent weekly meeting you have once a week on Wednesdays, let's say, during lunch. That's when you meet your group. That's fine. It needs to be consistent. If you're meeting students one-on-one in the mornings or at the end of the day, or right before a certain class for 10 minutes, that should be consistent. It shouldn't be, I'll do it every other week, or I'm deciding I'm gonna serve 1 day a week, every other week, and then 2 days a week, and that really disrupts that schedule you're trying to create with your student. So it has to be consistent. You have to check in with that student. And then the support services, that's a broad category of what that could be. It can be based off of what your academic program requires, whether you're in clinical, mental health, whether you're in social work, school counseling, adjustment counseling. If there's specific tactics you have to use in terms of engaging your students, utilize those. For those that do not, we will go through the resources of check and connect and what type of check and connect you can do with students. Now, students placed in AmeriCorps mentor groups are identified for placement by your site supervisor. If you are well versed in school, early education, schools, it might be that it's a hand-in-hand collaborative approach, or sometimes they just tell you this is your caseload. However way it is, there's not a wrong way. as long as there's some sort of involvement with your site supervisor. Now, we determine that your student should meet this criteria: chronically absent or at risk of becoming chronically absent based on the definition of chronic absence. It's missing 10% or greater of the total number of days enrolled during the school year for any reason. Doesn't matter if it's excused or not. It includes excused, unexcused, out of school suspension, in school suspension that lasts more than 1/2 of the school day. It can also be students that are referred based on the knowledge of a student's unique situation, such as traumatic experience or recent transition or sudden change of behavior or academic progress. Again, students that have a change of their life or transition or change of behavior or academic progress that can lead them to possibly being at risk of being chronically absent. And also, at the request of the member, student, or another individual with expressed concern of a particular student. So it might be a recommendation outside of your site supervisor. It could be a teacher, it could be a faculty member in the school that states that they believe an AmeriCorps member can support the student. And that might be a recommendation. The student also could be unreachable or inconsistent with attendance in class. That is another indicator of a student that can be within that at-risk category. And just some items to know while we're talking about just figuring out who your students are. You as a member should not be assigned only this very high risk or high need students, which are defined as students who may require IEP services. In these situations, a member cannot be the sole individual carrying out specific aspects of IEP, which does require a credentialed professional. However, as a member, you may assist a credentialed employee of Springfield Public Schools or a nonprofit entity for providing services to the student. Again, you're not the specialist, you're a support to the school and engaging in a mentoring aspect. If you as a member have experience and credentials to serve high need students, have that discussion with site supervisors. However, you're not full-time, and the expectation for you to dedicate a similar amount of support to a student that a full-time member can provide is setting the bar to fail. So please be aware of that. And members, please utilize Check and Connect tool that must be administered with integrity. So Check and Connect will, in the next slide, will tie in how often do you check in with the students? How are you documenting that? And making sure you're being honest with what you're writing in, how long you were meeting with that student. And lastly, students that are served in our program will take this survey now as they're onboarded in your group. And then at the end of the year, before you are to leave, you're to administer a survey, the same survey to your students. Now, each student in your mentoring group has to take this, and we'll go over the Q&As that we've received so far about some students. These surveys are invalid if a member doesn't spend the minimum required time providing service to the students. So this is also has happened. We're asking you to conduct a survey with your students. Doesn't matter if you're in elementary through high school, everyone. In the survey, if you're not dedicating the time to the student, it's better for that student. Maybe you're dedicating every other week or once a month support to a student. Maybe they're not on your caseload for AmeriCorps. We want to know who is your cohort of students that you'll be documenting Check and Connect with. We know our AmeriCorps member serves two groups. One that fits Check and Connect, and the other group is supporting the school, supporting students in a more holistic way that isn't so consistent, but still provides an impact. We want to know for this check and connect, for this survey, the students that you serve that meet that 30-minute requirement. And the dosage, as in the time you commit to that student, we are asking for you to keep track of that. Now this is also in your handbook, getting started with your student cohort. Just please note, for those that don't have a cohort, maybe you started late. We have a few members that started end of September. So please take this as the discussion steps that you have with your site supervisor. And it really starts with the site supervisor referring students to be considered to be at risk or currently is chronically absent under Springfield Public Schools definition, which Springfield Public Schools defines someone as chronically absent is a student that's 10% missing in the school days, missing 10% of school days. The member starts a file of that student. They utilize PowerSchool and Data Warehouse. We've already emailed out to all of our members who you contact. If you've had access to PowerSchool and now you don't have access, we have a contact. I've sent that out. I'll resend it out because of late, some of you were disconnected for some reason. Again, that's an IT issue that I don't have access to, and that the contact, they will need to walk you through what the issues are. I can't magically switch on the switch to give you access to PowerSchool. There are steps for onboarding, and then if you're suddenly disconnected, there's steps for them to help you. So I'll help with the onboarding process, and then the contact you would then reach out to if there's an issue after you've been connected. So the members, you start a member's, the member yourself will start a file for each student. Member schedules a meeting with the students to introduce themselves and explain the program. The member begins building a relationship with students, checking in with them regularly, getting to know their habits. What do they like? What don't they like? What type of style of interaction they prefer. They introduce themselves to the student's teacher and attendance officer and parents. Once the parents should be aware, by the way, of a member engaging with a student. If the parents should be aware of their child being engaged by a AmeriCorps member. Once the member and supervisor believe the student is comfortable with the mentoring relationship, the student is given a student engagement survey. So once you solidify that this is your group, then you do the student engagement survey. The member and site supervisor agree on mentoring interventions prior to member implementing them. So this goes into the tactic of what you will be doing for your group. That's a conversation that you have with your site supervisor. Our Check and Connect forms have example questions, but in terms of deciding how you will execute your group, your site supervisor should be there hand in hand with you. And the member tracks Check and Connect dosage. Dosage is time spent with the student, as well as student progress to monitor improvements in attendance, disciplinary issues, and grades. Now, those items we do not ask for. We simply ask for how many minutes and on what day. The other items are things that you check in with your site supervisor about, things you've observed, things you've noticed, things that the students disclose. And as possible, the member will communicate with parent, guardian, teacher, and the site supervisor about students' progress. If the student doesn't seem to be making progress, the member reevaluates the mentoring intervention plan, consults the site supervisor, and makes changes. Nothing's going to be cut in stone. This is a working in progress model, and being flexible is the biggest thing with your while you're serving. Nothing's cut in stone. Every day might be very different from the last. And so we had members get into groups and discuss at least one with at least one returning member in your group. How did you start a small group? And just to share some of the things that were mentioned, say supervisors provided a caseload for some members. Others had experience in terms of serving students through another organization that they had worked with. And so the site supervisor really allowed that member to pick their students. And then they came back this year and they already have a new cohort and they wanted to challenge themselves by providing a specific uh, demographic of students different than they did prior. In short, the returning members and the new members, for those that already started their cohort, engage with the parents through either a letter or calling them and letting them know that as an AmeriCorps member, they were engaging their students. What we will do, under Brightspace, we'll post the 2 letters that were shared. You can use that as a template, or if your school already provides a template, please utilize that. Please ensure that you're referring anything that is being shared here. Check with your site supervisor. Your site supervisor needs to approve anything that goes out outside the school to parents, okay? And now we're talking about engagement surveys. So we get your cohort students, you solidify these are the groups of students you're going to serve. Maybe you're realizing you only have 10 students right now. Maybe you only have 7 because 5 of them aren't consistent enough. Maybe they need direct support in the classroom. They can't go to your group. Okay, let's say that's fine. You have 7, you have 10, you have 15, you have 20. Each of those students are to do this engagement survey. And it's slightly different from elementary through the middle school, high school. Middle school, high school, it's the same. Elementary, it's slightly different. These engagement surveys, yes, they're bound hard copies, but everything needs to be put into our digital online system. And within the online system, that's how we will be able to assess pre-survey, how does your student feel beginning of the year versus end of the year. And for us, what that helps us do, we are able to explain to our to AmeriCorps, our grant funders, to the college, the effectiveness of this program. Now, more questions we've received on this engagement survey. Who are to take this survey? Just the students in your cohort. We understand you serve 2 populations. One group is your holistic support in the school. The second is the ones that you dedicate weekly support. And yes, that's 30 minutes direct support. Now your caseload is how many students? 15 to 20. If in the beginning it's not that, please do the survey. Let's take a pause. So what we have here is when the survey needs to be completed, ideally, if you already know you have your students, and we know for those who've already put in their student ID numbers back in September, have it done within 1 to 2 weeks. We understand students aren't consistent. They might not be in during the day that you're there 1 week, and it might take the next. But we will be checking in by mid-November to see all of those student IDs that have been put into the system, that you're putting in your dosage, the minutes every week. It needs to match. We need to have a survey, pre-engagement survey associated with that same student ID number. So please be aware, if you have a student ID number that you add letters to at the end, make sure that's consistent when you put it into the system for the pre-engagement survey. And for instance, if you know you only have half the students you need, you only have the 7, and you're getting another 7 later. When you do get those 7, then you redo those engagement surveys. And that might be the quick check-in we have with you is that phone call that we make. We only see 7 students you're being served and all 7 have done surveys. What's your next steps? And you're meeting with potential students just to make sure that they can get out of class. We're fine with that. Please conduct the surveys once you solidify your next group. Another question is, can you use the paper copy? Yes, but then you are responsible to take the results from the paper copy and put it into the link. And what are the links? For kindergarten through 5th, use the top link. Grade 6 or 12, use the second link. Paper copies are attached within Brightspace. And if you ask for them, we will also just email it out. But ideally, it is on Brightspace in the main page, right under announcements, posted right there for you. Now, will you be able to see the responses? No. However, if you do want the responses, because one of our members did ask, can they use the survey for their students for their social work program? By all means, fine. And that's great. Let us know. Send us an email. It might take a week to get you those results. Because again, we're getting all the results all in one group. So we're going to be pulling out that information for you. And is this the only time my students take the survey? No, they will be taking them at the end of the year. So part of your exiting process for the end of the year is having your students say goodbye to you and then have them do the survey. They have to do the survey though. We want to see if you provided a qualitative impact beyond than just a number of attendance days they've improved. More than that, did they feel like they were part of the school community, that they feel like they can have success academically, behaviorally, and within attendance, feeling good to come to school? This is why we have this survey. Please help us get this done. Now, students need permission to take the survey. No, none of their student IDs are actually going to be utilized, just like their attendance. When we receive their attendance data from Springfield Public Schools, we de-identify all their ID numbers. And for those that are in Holyoke and Worcester, we've already discussed that you do not need to use their actual student IDs. You can provide a unique identifying number that you keep track of that you can utilize. Does not have to be their actual student ID numbers. For Springfield Public Schools, we do need their ID numbers, so we could provide that to Springfield Public Schools IT department, and then they give us the data with all of the ID numbers removed. Who do you call for questions? You can email us, and Anna and I will both see the email at the AmeriCorps email right there. Now let's get into some specifics. What does this look like on America Learns? You have your student information, all their ID numbers or their unique ID numbers. You can when you put in their ID numbers, you're going to be given each week after you submit a timesheet the option to put in for that week how many minutes you dedicated with them. This is just a screenshot of it. I'm going to actually give you an example of a current member's form. Now we say caseload 15 to 20. If you only put in 7 because you're getting the next 7 next week, that's fine. But you will have to put in every single student intake minutes, dosage minutes. You can copy and paste one student's form, what you see here Monday through Friday. You can copy and paste this onto all the other students if they're all in one group. You don't have to re-insert all the information. Copy and paste it, which is a great option. Now, it is within 5-minute increments because we understand that check and connect can also be 10 minutes beginning of the day, 10 minutes end of the day. We understand that it can be you're checking in with them 3 days a week and that's your 30 minutes. Actually, that's 20, 40, 60 minutes. Please put in the 60 minutes that you check in with the student. Don't do bare minimum. You only do 30 minutes because we ask you for 30 minutes. If you truly dedicate with check and connect method more than that, please put it in. If it's 15 minutes in a day, put it in. And that's the integrity part. Please have integrity when you're putting in this data. And if you didn't meet with the student, choose none if you didn't meet with the student or did not serve. You didn't serve the student that day, that's okay. Member did not serve. I think it's an accurate reflection. Now, for support services, there's a category on the far right. These are the different types of options. You provide a mentoring, maybe academic, behavioral progress, one-on-one, group mentoring, connect meeting. So maybe it's IEP, maybe it's family engagement, Talking to a child's parent is support time that you can mark down. And then anything else. And then there is a notes column that you can add more notes. Now, student data collection. While we've already gone over this during orientation, we're going to re-emphasize this. We focus on each individual student. So if in the group for lunch bunch, for instance, you meet for 30 minutes with five students. You document that 30 minutes for that individual student and you keep replicating that. Every student, even though they're in together at once, receive 30 minutes of your time as a group. So for each individual student, you put in their data, you put in their dosage minutes, 30 minutes. We want to know what day it was, time spent with students, the actual minutes, support services, and the type of engagement, and any additional notes we should know about. Again, if you do check and connect, 10 minutes, beginning of the day, 10 minutes, end of the day, that day, for instance, Monday, you dedicated 20 minutes. Just do the total. Now, on America Learns, how do you put in those ID numbers? You will put them in using the following. On your left-hand side on the main page, there's this icon called New Students. And then you click on it and it pops up this window right here. And you'll see these three options. See the students that you're connected to? That helps just to make sure you wrote in all the ID numbers. 1 second. You will add new or connect to existing group. The group you only are given one option. From that, you add new students, and we ask for an identifier. That's a unique ID number. And then from the unique ID number, this was just an example that I put in prior, and I ask you for all this information. Date service began, it should be the date you actually served that member for the first time. Even though we're not asking for the data for that time period, we just want to know how early did you actually start serving them. School and site, you have to just assign them your school. Unfortunately, you're given all the schools, but find your school, select it, and then select what grade that student's in. Now let's get into America Learns, just so that way you can see what data you actually put in. So this is a sample ID number of a student, right? Just a sample. And this is what you're going to be put into. Let's just make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Yep. So you see Monday through Friday, and these are examples, time spent with students. It will be marked as done, and member did not serve. But let's say you do serve a student on Wednesday for 30 minutes in a group. You have this copy and paste function you can apply to the other students in that group. But on Thursday, you also provide academic support to that student. Friday, none. This is just one example of how simple your dosage time is. Now you're probably thinking, okay, you put it in on the weekend when you're done with serving the school Monday through Friday. Saturday, you're going to put this all in. How are you going to remember that you've done this? That's a great point. Now it goes back into our training for Check and Connect. We provided sample Check and Connect forms for you. We had you brainstorm a Check and Connect activity. It's posted on Brightspace, but we need a refresher. So here are some Check and Connect forms. We're going to start with elementary. This is a form that I created personally based off of what I've observed when going to sites in elementary school. Some schools will already have this. Utilize what your site supervisor tells you. If they want you to create your own, if they have a template and they say you can edit it, my recommendation, edit the form to meet our needs as well. For instance, I need that student ID number. It's going to get confusing when you have 10 ID numbers all listed as numbers and you forget who does it go to, which student. Is this the student in the group or is this a student that you do one-on-ones with? So you can do student ID number. You can have their grade and their name here. You can add ID and name, the date. So because we asked Monday through Friday, what day did you serve them? And it would be helpful if you're going to take them out of a certain class or bring them into a class after, you should know the teacher's name. If it helps you memorize that by putting it on their Check and Connect form, do it. In an elementary, maybe they're better expressing their feelings using emojis. I've seen this in multiple schools. I've seen this utilizing colors. However way your school metric form, please customize it. There is a picture of a soccer player. We've had schools utilize the interest of the student onto the form. And then your metric system right here on the bottom. And then the goals of the students. And anything that the student is saying to you, you can write it down. And my recommendation is that you should be sharing this with your site supervisor. And your site supervisor will probably ask you, what was the student saying, especially if there's a concern from the family. They might pull all information, all meeting notes that the student had with any faculty or staff or member. Now let's look at a different form. What about high school? Now this is the Check and Connect website that we utilize from University of Minnesota. This is a high school Check and Connect form. This is less interactive with the student and more for the member. This has a lot of information. Do you need this? No, customize it to your need. But what it does provide, it provides points of reflecting of what the needs of that student. Is it grades? Is it behavior? Is it the format of communication? Basic interventions, intensive interventions. So these are the examples. This is already on Basecamp. This was in your training as well during orientation. And then these are goals and the dates and the notes behind it. So important to document when you spoke, what was discussed, what did the student disclose. So these are examples of how to keep track of your dosage minutes. And then the actual survey is found in the link that we shared. I believe I can check the link right here so you can see what that looks like. So this is the survey. We asked for, we want to know who the AmeriCorps member is, the school, and the student ID number. Please make sure that matches with the ID number you put in to America Learns and the date you're taking this survey. And then you just fill it in. This is exactly like the paper copy. And then you hit next. I had to fill it all in. You hit next, and then you submit. Very straightforward, and that is the survey in itself. If there's any other questions that you might have, feel free to reach out to Anna or myself, and we'll be happy to answer it. And we might add a question at the end if this didn't go over an hour, so you can fill in your reflection of what this training provided for you. Have a great day. Feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. Thank you.